Hello, my name's Richard. I'm the pastor at the King's Church in Addlestone in Surrey. At the moment we're talking about the subject of what it is to be a church, to simply just be a church. Sounds simple, and in so many ways it is, and maybe we make it too complicated sometimes. But we're looking at some of the teachings of the New Testament and the teaching of Jesus on what it is to be a church. So, today, I've heard that if you take a coal out of the fire and place it on its own, then eventually it will just grow cold and just sort of fade out. However, if you take a hot coal and place it in amongst other cold coals or other bits of fuel that can burn, that hot coal would ignite and cause the other things around it to get warm and eventually to burst into flames and to ignite. And in many ways, life as a Christian is like this. Life in Christ is meant to be a shared life, meaning that we are to live together. We are to share in a way so that life and energy in the Spirit is transferred and infused from one person to another, so that faith grows and transforms each of us, and that's something that sort of knocks off one on another. And so people who say, well, you don't need to be part of a church to be a Christian, they're missing this heating effect, if you like, of what it is to be around other living, warm coals. Being a church is meaning that we are a people that draw close to God and then draw close to one another. And so that love and acceptance that I've spoken about in the last few weeks, that plays a big part in making that happen. So through Jesus, we have this complete confidence, the scriptures tells us, that the way is open to God, completely open to God, so that we can draw near to Him. And that seems too good to be true in many ways. It's like finding a way of being able to journey, say, to the surface of the sun, where there's just this amazing power and energy and light. It's unimaginable and impossible in a sense, but actually in a way that's the same kind of thing that we've been given the way to better draw near to God. It says draw near to God with full assurance of faith, and so in doing so we're able to draw near to God, who is the perfect source of love and of power, of energy, and He is light Himself. And so when the people of the church gather together, it's like people who have drawn near to God come together like hot coals, and there's this powerful reaction and interaction between people. I mean, if you think about it, you've got a collection of humans who know the truth in Jesus, who are filled with the Spirit, filled with faith, all with stories of salvation and the power of God's working in their lives. They all come together and are joined in love and in unity and accept one another. That is a powerful thing. And so when we come together and we gather together as a church, it should be a unique experience, not something else you'll find in any other thing in the world, because the church gathered together is a group of people which is like a catalytic reaction between the disciples of Jesus. It's not something we can really manufacture. You can't have special effects or some emotive music and some slick production that's going to make this happen. But actually, this is something that happens by the Spirit of God in us through faith. It's an authentic, organic life in Jesus together. It's being church. It's the work of God in us. It's not something we manufacture, but it's God working in us. Now, having said that God works in us and brings that warming, if you like, in us, and that we bring to other people, it is something we need to be responsible in being open to and responsive to. We need to play our part in allowing God to do His work in and through us. Just being open to God, really, and to allow His Spirit to lead us and change us and challenge us and transform us. And if we're honest, that in particular over lockdown has not been easy. Whilst I think we've done well as a church to meet online, The inability to be physically together has been hard. The ability to be spontaneous and flow with the Spirit has been restricted somewhat through the way we've had to do things. To fully share life and faith has been, if we're honest, seriously reduced by the way we've had to live over the last year or so. But as God's people of faith, people of truth, people of spirit, who draw close to God, who are able to draw close to God through faith, let us consider now how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. That's an active and an intentional thing. That's not something that just happens by chance. It's something we give ourselves to. It's not something either that just the leaders in the church are supposed to do. Notice when the scriptures say that, it doesn't just say, leaders, make sure you spur one another of your congregation on to love and good works. No, it says, let us, all of us, consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. That's something that is spoken to everybody. That's the challenge that is given to the whole community of the church. And so it's about each one of us looking to see how we can be like a hot coal and cause those around us by the Spirit of Jesus to grow warm in faith, to inspire that faith, to inspire love, to inspire hope in each other. Now, you may be thinking, oh my goodness, I know how this is going to go. Don't worry. I'm not talking that we all turn into sort of like a demented PE teacher who's kind of just cracking the whip saying, come on, try harder, keep going. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually us considering what is the best way I can encourage and inspire these people around me, where they're at now. How can I be a blessing to them? And how can I consider how I can be one who can encourage and spur them on and bring them on with me and bring that warmth of faith to the people around me? As ever, Jesus should be our guide. Not the ways of the world, but the ways of Jesus. So let me give you some examples. It could be simply just being honest with the people around you about how you feel, or something that's happened to you, just being honest about that. It could be simply being open and allowing others to see your failings as well as your successes, and your need for God's mercy in every situation. When other people see that, actually, I think that warms faith. It could be being challenging and identifying things that need to change in the way we do things or the way we are, and saying, okay, come on, let's be challenged by the Word of God in this. It could be getting alongside someone and walking with them through some difficult times, or walking through them with whatever's going on. It could be just sharing truth. It could be sharing experience. It could be sharing a story of something that's happened. It could be just saying, I've read this and it's really powerfully impacted me, or I listened to a piece of music and it just really ministered to me. I'm using Christian language. You're going to have to find your own way of saying these things. Whatever it is, be proactive and ask the question of yourself, how can I spur on those around me towards love and good deeds in Jesus? Now, many of us are really struggling at the moment. For many of us, mental health is not great. And it's okay to admit that. And we need to be mindful of that when we're speaking with the people around us. How can I consider how I can encourage and help the people around me, some of the people who are actually quite fragile at the moment? How do I consider how to spur them on in faith? A church that does that is a church that has a Christ-like mindset. And when that starts to happen, there's this catalytic reaction that starts to happen in church, because faith in one person starts to then inspire faith in another. And that hot coal effect starts to ignite from one person to another and then back and forth. And there's this kind of chain reaction of faith. And so that's why the scriptures encourage us, don't give up meeting. You see, we have a responsibility to place ourselves amongst the nurturing warmth of the life of faith of the gathered church. To be ones who warm others and ones who allow others to warm us. So I keep encouraging you, find ways to meet. That may be in person at the moment, it may be online, but do not give up meeting in some form with the people of faith around you, because you bring warmth to them and they will bring warmth to you in terms of faith. So we're to meet, we're to encourage one another. And when we're to encourage one another, that isn't so much about saying, telling people how well they're doing, you're doing a really good job. Sometimes that's helpful, but a lot of the time we aren't actually doing a great job, or we don't feel it that way sometimes. But actually the encouragement that comes of faith is less about us, and it's more about the hope that we have in God. Encourage people around you in the hope that we have in Jesus. Encourage people around you in the faithfulness of God that you have seen over years, maybe months, maybe days for some of you, but just encourage people in the faithfulness of God. Encourage people with the stories of what God has done and continues to do. Because in doing so, what you're encouraging people to do is to keep going in the faith, to keep growing in the faith, to keep moving forward in Jesus and journeying forward into the land and the hope that he has for us. Encourage people. Even maybe think of ways you can encourage one another and challenge one another to find ways and opportunities to know God more and to serve God more. You see, being a church is where we as a people gather together to spur one another on towards love and good works. Which means the church is to be a place of expectant, energetic, interactive life from one person to another. It's where we all come away lifted and encouraged by one another. Now, I don't know about you, but being a church like that sounds pretty good. To finish off, I'm just going to give you two examples of conversations I've had just this week. People I haven't spoken to for quite some time, actually, just by coincidence. I managed to speak to them this week. And both within these conversations, this warming catalytic effect happened with me. The first one is someone who I've known quite a while, and we just chewed the cud together, as we often do when we get together. And we shared some of our common struggles that we've had over the last year, some of the things we've just journeyed through, which seem familiar or similar to each other. And then I just started telling him about a book that Louise and I have just started reading, which we found really quite challenging, about how to follow Jesus in a very practical way. And I started telling him about this. I said, I think you really love this book. And he said, you'll never guess what. I've been doing a course online which is actually run by the same guy who wrote that book. And I put the phone down, and it was just kind of like this, I just felt just refreshed in my spirit, simply because I had that conversation where I realized that in Jesus, I'm on this same journey with someone, with people. Just being on the same journey, we're going through the same struggles. Reading happens to be that we're reading or studying the same kind of things with the same kind of author of this book. It was just lifted my soul, refreshed my spirit. Another conversation is again with somebody I haven't spoken to for a long time, and we talked about a few things. But as towards the end of the conversation, this guy said to me, Pastor, I want you to know my family, and I pray for you and your family every single day. And he said, so don't worry. If there are days when you're too busy to pray, don't worry, because your name is mentioned in heaven every single day. And if I'm honest, that brought me to tears. And I put the phone down and realized that encouraged me, that warmed my faith. That's just the way it works. That's how it is to be church. Simple stuff, really. So let me read this to you one last time. Let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good works. In Jesus. Amen.